All right, welcome. I am going to experiment with DTube. So this is a DTube exclusive content. And today we are going to take a quick look at using Spring Boot, which is a Java programming framework for building web applications. We're going to build a microservice application for tracking your budgetary expenses. So we will build a backend using Spring and Spring Boot, and we will use a front end for web application. I'm deciding right now. Let's go ahead and use AngularJS because I haven't used that really before either. So I'm using two new technologies, and we'll see how it goes. So first thing, let's figure out about Spring Boot. I'm just going to open up a window, and I'm going to type Spring Boot and see where we're going. Let's do get started with Spring Boot. Now, this is going to be a microservices application, which means the back end is just going to get data from the database, and then it's going to send that raw data to the front end, which will render the HTML and have all the front side logic. So traditional web applications will have all the content created, the HTML created on the server side and pushed to the client. In this case, we're going to use a serverless client. We'll publish on Netlify, and the front end will communicate with the back end somewhat seamlessly. I'm learning this as we go. So let's go ahead. We're going to take 15 minutes here, and let me set a timer because I don't want to go too long. I tend to definitely go too long. So let me fire up my iPhone timer and see what we can accomplish in 15 minutes. There we go. I've got that set. So what we will need about 15 minutes, a text editor or IDE. We will use IntelliJ IDEA. We will need a Java development kit, 1.8 or greater. I think I've got 17, 14, 11, 8, whatever, it doesn't matter. I've got Gradle and Maven, and you can also import code straight into Spring Tool Suite. I think that's just an Eclipse plugin or IntelliJ. All right, so how to complete this guide. Let's see, start from scratch or bypass the steps. Either way, you end up with working code. So to start from scratch, we can go to the Spring Initializer. I think we'll do that. Or to skip the basics, you can just git clone this. Okay, so start with Spring Initializer. So go to start.spring.io. And here, what it's going to show us is it's going to show us some options, and then it's going to give us a basic project outline. I think it's a Maven project or a Gradle project. And it's probably just a zip file that includes our dependencies. So on you front end people, maybe I should use React. This is kind of like create React Act GUI. Or I guess like the Ember CLI or Angular CLI. Anyway, so we want a Maven project. You can go with Gradle or Maven. It doesn't matter. I'll just stick with Maven. Language, Java. Kotlin and Groovy are also supported. They run on the Java virtual machine. We'll just stick with Spring Boot 2.6.1. I guess that's the current version. And then project metadata. So we're going to call this Budgeteer. And I started creating an application called Budgeteer, a mobile app, way back 2010, 2011. Never happened or never completed. So the artifact we want the Budgeteer. We'll call this Budgeteer service, I guess. Budgeteer microservice. So this is the back end, right? We can call this Budgeteer. Let's just call this Budgeteer server. Description, track your expenses to accomplish your budgetary goals. All right, so let's call this Budgeteer server. Let's change it back to service. This is why it takes me so long. So Budgeteer, package name Budgeteer.service. All right, and create a jar or a web archive. We want to go jar, and let's stick with Java 11 version, I think. So let's generate it, and yeah, it downloads a zip file. Let's show this in Finder. Bring my Finder over here, and here we go. We've got budgeteer service.zip. We're going to open that up, and we've got budgeteer service. Let's go ahead and grab this and for that. Let's move this to my Scratch directory. Move downloads budgeteer service to and I just use this Scratch directory. I'm going to make a directory, call it budgeteer, and I'm going to move budgeteer service to budgeteer. And then inside of budgeteer, I'm going to get init and get, well, I'm not going to add anything. Let's take a look at it. So we've got our budgeteer service. Let's look at the files here. Make it a little bit bigger so we can see. We'll close down that and all right, so we've got this Maven W. So this is just a directory that's going to hold a Maven executable. We won't use that. We've got our pom.xml. This contains our dependencies and the information we need for building with Maven. We've got our source main Java budgeteer tree, and then we've got our source test Java budgeteer service tree, and it starts with a budgeteer service application and budgeteer service application tests. And then we've got under source main resources, we've got our application properties. So let's boot up IDEA. See if I have this in my, oh good, it's in my path. So I can launch IntelliJ once this comes up. It's thinking about it. Trying to load another project here. So I'm off screen and file. Updating indexes. Unfortunately, Macs only have about a 5-year lifespan, and this one's almost up to that 5th year. I think it's 2017. So, but of course iPhones only have a 2-year lifespan. So, and my iPhone just went out of warranty, so my battery's dying. The battery is completely kaput on this MacBook, so that it can't even run for an hour unplugged. And that's kind of Apple's main strategy, is to nuke the battery. But they've got some other strategies that seem to be working very well for this computer as well. It won't load. It won't load IntelliJ. Too much memory or something. What have I got running here? A bunch of Chrome, OBS, IDEA. It says it's sleeping. It's not using any CPU or memory. Well, Top is not a very good program, is it? I mean, it probably looked pretty cool in 1980 before there were screen outputs for Unix systems, but all right, well, we have completely failed. That is half of 15 minutes. We haven't even opened our IDE yet. So I'm going to force quit IntelliJ. Now let's force quit Word. Let's force quit Visual Studio Code. Let's force quit Google Chrome. Yeah, kill them all. Let's force quit Sublime Text. Force quit IntelliJ IDEA. All right. I said force quit. Okay. Let's try launching it again. First of all, when you open an application, it shouldn't try and load the last application immediately. It should give you the option to, but it shouldn't force it to load it, right? Maybe I want to work on a different project. Did you ever consider that, IntelliJ? No, you have not. Maybe I can close that before it gets hung up trying to load it. All right. So we get to new project. Actually, let's go ahead and nope, let me kill about 20 tabs over here off screen. All right, here we go. New project. Looks like I've got project SDK 17. You know what? I'll go ahead and generate a version for that. So demo1.zip, we'll remember. New project, Java version 17. That's the most recent Maven project. And we're going to call this budgeteer service. Well, actually, I guess we want to open the project budgeteer service. Here we go. Okay, so I've got a new IntelliJ project budgeteer service, and we're going to open it. See what happens. Okay, create a simple web app. So we want to create a controller. Let's just bring this up, and yeah, it says trust to open Maven project. That's idiotic. Make it fit in screen. Appearance, we need font size. Let's make this, I don't know, size 18. There we go. And then our editor font, we want that to be like size 18 too, I guess, for this case. For those of us with bad eyes or with YouTube. All right, so it's resolving the dependencies of budgeteer service. While we're doing that, let's look at our dependencies. Okay, so in our pom.xml, we've got our project is the head of this XML file, model version 4. This is the Maven version. Parent is, so this has a parent project, which is SpringBoot or SpringFramework.boot, SpringBoot starter parent. Version 261, I remember that 261 from here. And group ID is budgeteer, artifact is budgeteer service, version 001. And the name is budgeteer service. Track your expenses to accomplish your budgetary goals. That's what we wrote over here. Java version 11. We're going to bump this to, oops. Well, we're going to stick with 11 here. Java 17 should still be able to run Java 11 as well. And this will work for those of us with older versions. Okay, so first dependency is SpringBoot Starter. Second one is SpringBoot Starter Test, and that's all of our dependencies. And then we have a build plugin, which is SpringBoot Maven plugin. All right, that lets us know about that. Okay, cool. It looks like we're done. We've got our source main Java. We've got budgeteer service application. This is our main file, it looks like. So let's go ahead and expand that out so we can see it properly. Yep, so we've got a main, and it just says Spring application run, and passes in budgeteer service application.class. That's this class. And arguments, if there are any, from our main. And you can see there's this this annotation, Spring Boot application, that's being imported here. I imagine this is the make it do everything annotation. Launch the web container. It's probably Jetty instead of Tomcat. Wire up Spring. Do all the Spring Booty things that it does. And anyway, so we've got an application. We're down to 30 seconds here. And then let's look at our test. We've got a Spring Boot test annotation that's covered in here in the import. Here is our class, and it doesn't do anything. It just has this context loads. Doohickey. It's an empty test. All right, so we've got our application. Let's run it. I assume it's going to start up a web server and probably print out the equivalent of Hello Spring. There's my timer at 15 minutes. We'll go over, and as soon as I learn how to edit video, we'll see what's going on. So we've got this really awesome graphics as it boots up, and then it says starting Spring Boot application in 2.581 seconds. Starting budgeteer service application using Java 17 on MacBook One Shore Local with PID 3629. Started by Aaron Evans in this folder. Process finished with exit code. So I was expecting it to say server running on port 1234, something like that. Let's try running this again, see if it does the same thing. No active profile set, falling back to process finished with exit code 0. Defaults. You know what? There's one more thing I can think of checking. No, not the documentation. Don't be silly. We can check our resources file, application.properties. Maybe it has a port collision. All right, let's bring up our terminal, our output, our event log. No, build. Nope. Run with coverage, debug. I don't have anything to debug here. What I'm wondering is if we've got a port conflict and we're not seeing any issues. All right. If at first you don't succeed, read the documentation. All right. Spring Initializer supposedly does its job. Okay, so we need to get mapping. So we need to now you can create a web controller for a simple application. So yeah, we want to create a web service so that when we get root, it'll say whatever we want, not what they want. Java class, what do they call it? Hello controller. So we'll call this base controller, I guess, for lack of another word. Yeah, let's go ahead and add it to Git. All right, so we can see we've got a REST controller. We're going to grab our import statements and that annotation. All right. And we don't have any Maven dependencies. Nope, we don't want to delete our imports. So it doesn't work. Run the application. All right. How to complete this guide. All right, so scratch. Let's look through it. Okay, about 15 minutes. Learn what you can do with SpringBoot. Starting the SpringBoot Initializer, we did that. We downloaded our zip file. Create a simple web application. All right, we've got a controller, but it doesn't work. The class is flagged as REST controller. We know that. Get mapping means map whatever to whatever. We might as well put that in there. I think I'm going to do this. Kill everything. All right, so our challenge here is our dependencies aren't getting resolved. We've got SpringBoot starter and our budgeteer service application uses SpringBoot application. Start Spring application run. Budget, okay. Our basic controller, we need to say we want to return. Yeah, we'll just return. Let's add a Maven dependency. Get mapping so we can see Spring Web. Let's add this. Let's see. So first thing I noticed, I had to add Spring Web dependency here. And then my controller, well, that works. So let's still check the port. What port does SpringBoot start on? Port 8080. So let's see if I've got something running on localhost 8080. There's a fair to midland chance that I do, but I don't. Let's see, and if I try some random port, it gives me the same error. But if I try localhost directly, it will, okay, my Nginx server comes up. So that's not the problem. Create an application class. All right, so we need to create SpringBoot application. Import all this crud. Right, this is a SpringBoot application. So let's go ahead and let's create another. Actually, let's go ahead. Let's create package com.example.springboot so that we can actually do that. Okay, so under source main Java, I'm going to do new package. What is it? com.example.springboot. Maybe, maybe not. And then I can do new Java class. And what is this class called? Application. Sure, let's add it. right, we'll copy the whole thing now. We'll blow it away. We'll save it. We are literally cutting and pasting our way to failure. Let's inspect the beans provided by SpringBoot. So it does context, which is passed into our command line runner. So here's this looks very much like my base, or not my base controller, but my budgeteer service application. Right, we've got a main. It does Spring application.run, and it's looking for budgeteer service application.class, which is this file. In here, run application.class, and it's looking for a bean command line runner, perhaps. Well, actually, this isn't doing anything. Right, it's creating this bean, which in Spring parlance means Pojo, but it doesn't mean Pojo at all. So this is not starting a server, is the point I'm saying. This is just taking an application context, which Spring application.run, I assume says, look for beans when it starts up. Okay. Anyway, so we've got com example SpringBoot application. This is literally just cut and pasted, and we're going to grab this com example SpringBoot. We're going to put this controller. It's called Hello Controller. Let's add that. Nuke it. And class Hello Controller is never used. Create an application class. Run the application. So Maven W SpringBoot run. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to suspect that this won't run like this. When I click run, it says, I don't know what on earth you're talking about. Process exited with 0. But if I go here to Maven and we find lifecycle, we're probably going to have a clean, validate, compile, test, package, verify, install, site. Oops. Well, it's downloading some stuff. Org Apache document content, blah blah blah, some sort of error. Yeah, I didn't want site. I don't even know. I was trying to look for options here. So let's again bring Maven up over here. Maybe if we just do Maven run. What is our error? Document content. No class, doxia, site render, document context. I've gotten this far in Spring before. Class not found, doxia. Sounds like a Maven issues. Yeah, this is trying to run Maven site plugin. This is not what I needed. Okay, site, SpringBoot. Oh, here we go. SpringBoot run. That's probably what I want here. SpringBoot 1. Okay, so I found it. Under plugins, SpringBoot, SpringBoot run. Run Maven Build. Maybe this will start it up for us. Unable to find a single main class? Well, great. We do have 2 main classes. Now we're getting somewhere. Maybe. Well, we're getting somewhere slow. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's wipe all that out. Refactor, destroy. All right, so let's do SpringBoot run Maven Build. Scanning for projects. Compiling to sources. Still says unable to find a single main class. Yeah, those are the 2 that used to exist, but they don't exist both anymore. So I need to do a clean, I guess. We'll run a Maven clean. Delete those artifacts. I'm giving myself a better than 10% chance this works right now. I'm going 50-50. Recompiling the module, that's a good sign. SpringBoot, build success. All right, build success, but what does that mean? Do I have something running on localhost 8080? No, I do not. So next step, I guess, let's try run from the command line. So I can do the Maven W SpringBoot run. I'll use the IntelliJ console. Window terminal. Maven W SpringBoot run. Let's go see if that's right. Spring-boot run. Okay. It's downloading again. Shouldn't have needed to download anything. Build success. Started budgeteer service. SpringBoot. Curl localhost 8080. It doesn't say anything. I know that. Take that. It is 2 a word. We don't need to do that inspect the bean stuff. Package budgeteer service. All right, I'm going to nuke everything I've done. Undo, delete, add those COM example files back. And I guess what I can do is I can just comment that out. Let's comment the whole thing out. Now that file doesn't exist. I mean, it kind of does. Rebuild project. Got to clean it up. Maven reload project. We'll go crazy. And then we'll do Maven. We'll try and run it from the command line. Did it say something there? Starting application using Java 17. No active profile set, falling back to default. Yeah, there's nothing running. All right, let's try how to click to skip the basics, download, and unzip GS Spring Boot or clone using Git. Here we go. Oh, it looks like Spring is an unmaintained project. Okay. So we're going to nuke this project. We're going to is it getting started? Spring Boot main. Yep. Dot. All right. Speed downloads GS Spring Boot main zip dot unzip GS Spring Boot dot zip. Let's move it to all right, unzip GS Spring Boot service main, okay. And then if we do idea GS Spring Boot main, nothing ever works. Build script found, gradle, initial complete, okay. We'll use gradle, trust project. Gradle, JDK 17 isn't compatible with Gradle 7. Fix Java home environment variable. That may very well be our problem. So we'll try that next. One more. So I think maybe it's Java 17. Let's fix IntelliJ. Well, let's run it first and see. So we've got we've got initial and main. So we've got these two different Gradle projects, apparently initial and complete. And this is both a Gradle and a Maven project. So we've got application and hello controller. This looks very familiar. This has both the main, and in the main it actually, see, it doesn't have that bean annotation on its own. It just gets the context within main. And we've got a hello controller. But it looks like it says it's indexing. Code analysis has been suspended. So it's going to take a while for IntelliJ to run. So it's downloading Tomcat, Spring Boot, XML unit, JUnit, all this stuff. And source test has a run.sh instead of, it's a shell script. So it's got like Maven W and Gradle W, compile clean. That's not clean. But there's no source test. Yeah, we've got initial, complete, and test. Maven Build script found. We want to skip that. We want to use Maven, or we were going to use Gradle here. It's still choking. I'm going to check my email. iPhones. They can't type. If you type but, they write bug. All right. Terminal. Gradle W. /gradle W. Just SpringBoot name. Initial. Gradle W and so I could go here, right? Initial, and then I can I don't even know if it's SpringBoot run. Jump ahead to creating a simple web application. Do what you can do with SpringBoot. Spring Initializer, create a simple web app. And run the application Gradle. Yeah, it's supposed to be boot run anyway. Different command for different plan. Compiling. Need to turn up my heater because it's cold in the yurt today. Going back to my email. Wow, that's taken a long time. Oops. Unrelated. All right, so it looks like another waste of time. Computer's not working, SpringBoot's not working, iPhone's not working. I'm just incompetent. I'm a fool for trusting technology. Gradle doesn't work. It says it works. Nothing's running. All right, initializing. I kill this off. Okay, so that looks like it. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. What could go wrong with adding more desktops, huh? Log, we'll get rid of that. So then it says, let's inspect. Greetings from, we're going to change this to budgeteer. And then if we try running this, notice how we don't know how to run it. Gradle, SpringBoot tasks, dependencies. Why are there two? Oh, one for initial and one for complete, maybe? Other. Compile Java, compile test Java. What's it called? Boot run. There we go. Okay, so here's our output. This let's inspect the beans application availability. Maybe my other project, maybe I have to name the file application. Maybe that's the trick. I doubt it. But so it prints all this output from our bean here, right? We can minimize that output. So instead, I'm going to, before I do that, I'm also going to do system out print line. Here we're going to say started budgeteer service. And now I think I can stop, and if I run that, yep, it's going to run initial boot run. We've got a typo. Our hello controller. Nope, under application. We need a semicolon. We run that, so it's got all this output here, and before it gets to all that, it says starting budgeteer service on localhost 8080. Greetings from budgeteer. Okay, we are making the tiniest bit of progress, and I also sent some stupid emails. Okay, so we've got greetings from Spring Boot. Let's go back and try and do this on my own here in my other project. So file, close project, disconnect, terminate. I don't know. We're going to go to budgeteer service. So actually it made my application like this, right? So I'm going to go to plugins, SpringBoot run budgeteer service. Okay, so look here. It prints all this stuff out. We can go back to our project. So I think it runs and then it dies. Let's inspect the beans provided by SpringBoot. So we're going to blow that away. And our local host 8080 is dead. So it's running the application, but it's not starting the server. What's difference? Oh, the command. Maybe if I just kill this whole bean command line. I hit Control S. That has nothing to do with what you did there, my dude. Maybe it's a Maven issue. Let's start over. All right, so